Hey guys, and welcome back to another great episode of Pardon Our Honesty. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Megan.
And today we are talking about whatever we feel like, as usual.
Sorry, I still have the cooties.
Yeah, you got cooties. I don't know.
So Friday we take Ava away to college.
I know. I'm so excited.
House will be left with just 2 kids.
Yeah.
So that's a big change. I think she's nervous. I know she's excited, but I think she's nervous. And, first she's anxious because so many people are going to move her in. And I'm like, well, you have a big family.
If I wasn't going to Charlotte to help Maya set up her classroom, I'd be going too.
I think she just, is nervous. And then we leave there on Saturday and go move Mass in apartments. Listen to this crazy thing. This is a little off. So Madison is moving apartments with her roommate.
Okay.
And they need a guarantor because in Charleston, you have to make 5 times the rent. I look at the application and what you have to make per month to qualify, and I was like, how do people afford, how do these 20-year-old kids afford this?
I had no idea because my daughter is moving to South Carolina as well, and she needs a guarantor as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, please, baby, don't look at me because no, ma'am. But I don't know.
Yeah, yesterday I was like, so I put my W-2s in there, but then when it asked for your monthly income, I didn't do the math. I just did a number, right? Well, then they were like, well, you don't make enough. I'm like, yes, I do. Look at my W-2s. Well, why did you put that? I don't know. I didn't know it mattered. I just threw a number out there, but I was like, Madison, how in the world would you and Braxton afford? She's like, well, we couldn't. We both don't make 5 times the rent. That is crazy.
Nope. And so I know
I've heard 3 times.
Yeah, I've heard 3 times. I know that for us, I think it's 2 or 3 is the requirement. But I have a friend that does real estate in Atlanta, and their model has gone to, say your home is a 3-2. Instead of you renting it out as a whole home, they're renting out rooms with 2 beds in it. So each person in that one room has to pay a certain cost. And I think it's $750 for each person in the one bedroom. And then they are also turning kitchens into bedrooms or, like your dining room. You don't need that. Everybody
Like
just
a
needs
studio.
access to the kitchen. They're making the dining area a room as well and renting that out.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a client that was room renting. He got the owner suite. So it was the bedroom with the bathroom, $1,500 a month.
I think
for shared everything else.
That trend is going to continue to grow.
I'm scared to live with a stranger.
You don't have a choice.
And then he said there were so many people that would come and go, like stay 2 nights, stay 1 week, stay 2 nights. I'm like, that's too transient for me.
But people are doing it. $800. I looked up places to rent for $800 a month here in our area. And I would not live in neither one of those.
Well, I agree. My neighbor across the street, she said that, they need help with the rental. And I was like, what's your budget? She's like, as low as possible. I'm like, I don't think you want as low as possible with 2 little kids.
But
when
that
you
is
have
the
no
trend.
choice.
When you don't have no choice. I mean, I feel sad. I know I've shown a couple of them, and I was like, there's no way in the world I would live or recommend
put my kids here. Yeah.
Absolutely not. But as a kid, it was $400. That's what we lived in. And I was like, oh, this is not good. I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate. But 5 times the rent. That's crazy.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. I said, man, that's crazy for somebody who's just working 40 hours a week at a standard job. Like they couldn't,
there's no way.
When I read it, I was like, you need to make 5. I'm like, what? That's insane.
And I think...
And this isn't a high-end apartment either. Yeah. This is one of the cheaper apartments.
Oh, really?
Like, they moved because it's cheaper, and it's in it's in, what's it called, John's Island or something. It's in a nice area, but it's a lower cost apartment. So I thought the cost, and when it said 5 times, she's like, I need you to guarantee your house. I was like, that's crazy.
And I think Alexa's... She's probably going to make 50, maybe 60 a year, and she still needs a guarantor.
Yeah.
In South Carolina.
Yeah, because you need 4 to 5 times. That's crazy to me. I just can't. That's so much pressure for people that are just trying to get by, and now you can barely have a safe, nice place to live, and then you're,
Then you're going to have to come back and move in with mom, and I'm going to be like, Jesus, please don't.
That is so funny.
But I think that is going to become a trend.
A generational thing.
Where you're sharing your houses with 2 or 3 generations. like we used to, or
Strangers.
that you're going to be, yeah, living with a stranger so that they can help you pay the mortgage or the rent or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
That
think
is
I'm
sad.
such a paranoid person about safety that I feel like I would have a really hard time. But I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. Have a gun, I guess.
To have a gun, not a gun. Anyway, what else we talking about? We talked about therapy a little bit.
Yeah.
That's that's an interesting subject for me. So I've been doing it for a long time. It does have a lot of great benefits if you are open to hearing what the therapist is telling you to do, apply it, and like you're honest. If you're not honest in those sessions,
See,
how you gonna get help?
that's my hang up because, I'll go back a few years when my father had passed and my mom had been going to counseling and whatever. Well, I remember going into one of these appointments with her because I asked if I could go with because I didn't feel like she was being completely honest with the counselor. And so when we went into that session, there was some family dynamics happening, and I mentioned something about our family dynamic, and the counselor had no idea, and it was a big thing. Didn't even know I had a brother. And I'm thinking, so you came in here. How can you deal with the problems when you're leaving out large portions of it? So I do. And we have, between Nick and I, we have 8 children, and there's a lot of counseling. And, a lot of the counselors do communicate with us as in our underage, when the kids were underage or the ones that are. Um, give me feedback. What's going on in your life? What's going on? And when you tell them things and they're like, oh, well, that was not, so it's very hard. And I know that they don't necessarily want, like one of the counselors has said, I don't necessarily want to know every little thing going on in your thing, blah, blah. But I need to know the big things going on because if said child comes in and says, oh, I had a great week, there's been and that's not the case. It's going to be hard for me to work through, process those things and work through those things. So like this week, in the past, we've talked to, the counselors, and one thing I think is great about therapy is that if you have an experienced counselor that can see things, read things, and educate about things like traumas and trauma response and breaking down the fact like this could have happened 10 years ago, but it could still be a factor now if it hasn't been dealt with. I think that's a benefit. I think the most harmful thing in the world is if you have a counselor who does not support your goal of healing. So, like when I deal with all of our kids, right, we've had instances where counselors are not about healing. They're either perpetuating some of these things, like, and I don't want to use the word liberal per se, because I know people relate that to like politics, but like, how there's like that trend, like hate your parents kind of thing. Like, I don't know if you've seen it online where all these kids our age and the next generation under, well, not like 30s, are blaming their parents and cutting their parents off and doing all this stuff. So there's some of that of like, well, they shouldn't have rules or you should let them be independent, so you get those. And then you get the ones who are just like, put them away, send them to a home or send them to whatever. And like, they don't want to do, why are they this way? And what's the core and they just get rid of them or there's no hope or that could be the most detrimental.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes you have to go through 4 counselors.
Yep.
But a lot of people won't do that. They do one, and either they think they're the holy grail and they could be horrible, or they say, this was horrible, I'm never doing it again.
That's true. I think most people I feel land on that other side where I went to therapy. This is horrible. I got nothing out of it, and I'm just gonna have to.
I think
Figure
it's
it
a
out on
waste
my
of time.
own.
Yeah.
I don't. I can't say I ever had a bad counselor. I will say I had a counselor in my first marriage. One was like, "You're going through all of this stuff or this shit. It's going to be very difficult to overcome it. But if you're willing to do the work, we can." And he just gave it to us very raw. And that was not the person we chose, which is who I think we should have stuck with. And we went to a lady that was like, give each other a hug. Do you feel his energy? And I was like, what the fuck? This is not what we need right now. We
We're
need
not
that
dealing
dude
with the problem, right?
that was saying, this is some hot ghetto mess. And in order for you to get through this, it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to be very difficult.
But see, I think that's a good point that some people don't want to do that. So they choose the easier one.
Oh, yes.
And I think with all my kids, we've seen lots of counselors. We've rotated through multiple. And it's like the kids prefer the ones they could just go and sit and not have to talk. And that person just, the ones that are digging in, you see the most change, but, or like, why do you go to therapy and the therapist gives you homework and you don't do the homework.
I don't know because I've had some really difficult homework that I absolutely hated, but I did it anyway because for me, I just, okay, this is the homework. They're saying this is going to help me. Let me do it.
Right.
But he did say all the time, you did your homework? Wow. I'm really kind of shocked, but I'm really proud of you because most people don't do it.
And that's the thing. Like, if you're there to fix a problem, right? I'm there because I'm traumatized. I'm there because I have an eating problem. I'm there because I hate my parents. I'm there because I don't know, I'm a blended family. Whatever the reason you're there. And they say, okay, this week I want you to do A, B, and C
Hmm.
and come back next week so we could talk about it. And then they don't do it. I'm like, why are you not doing the homework? And number two is, I know you can't make them like a teacher, but like, why are we not trying to enforce? Then here, let's do it right here. Let's
Yeah.
do it in
Yeah.
session,
Yeah.
or okay, you didn't go talk to so and so, bring so and so in next session and we'll do it here. Like,
Mhm.
because there's got to be accountability in counseling too, or therapy, whatever you want to call it. But if you don't, then I feel like it's just you're showing up for an hour event and then you leave and you don't apply anything.
I think that was my first take on therapy when I first started is I'm just there to vent. I'm not supposed to I'm supposed to hold on to all my crap and time will pass and I will heal. But as I like you're saying kept going to different therapists, they're like, "No, you are supposed to heal or at least face it so that it's all out on the table and then you decide, okay, what are you going to do next?" But yeah,
And I think it's perspective and transparency, like we said before. Like, all of our kids that have been in counseling, at some point the counselor will ask us for a check-in or
Mhm.
ask us for whatever. And when we give our concerns, they're like, wow, we didn't have any of that in our we didn't know. And you're like, so what does that person say? What do they think they're there for, I guess? And like my oldest, I can't talk to her counselor anymore, obviously, but she'll call and tell me stuff going on. I'm like, you need to talk to your counselor about this.
Mhm.
No, that's stupid. No, all of these things, she's got to know what's going on because it's a whole circle. If you're only getting this part of it,
Yeah.
the ball's not going to keep rolling. If you're only telling the thing, you got to tell the things that are embarrassing or
Mhm.
uncomfortable or made you
Mhm.
upset. Because especially, some of our kids go more now every 3 weeks or four versus every week.
Yeah.
It's all different. And the bigger the gap, I think they forget
Mhm.
things and they're calling me traumatized over. And then how's counseling? Good. We didn't really have anything to talk about. I'm like, you've been calling me every day, every 3 weeks. What do you mean you didn't have anything to talk about?
I guess, well, for me, the sessions always start off with, okay, this is my goal for this session, but is there anything you want to talk about? And sometimes we can get off track of, okay, this was what was supposed to be talked about because something happened a week. I was pissed off, frustrated, overwhelmed, and I bring it up. And then we talk about, okay, so this is what happened. These are some things you can do next time it happens. But I
But
the
some
lady did say, this therapist said to me, she asked, did we have anything in the relationship that came up? And we didn't respond. And then she said, did anything, outside of the relationship come up within the last 2 weeks? And we kind of sat there for a minute and she said, if you guys say you didn't have anything come up, I know something is wrong because there is no way that you didn't have anything come up in the last 2 weeks
right.
within the relationship or outside of the relationship. So I think for me, that was okay. Well, you ain't going to be sitting in here twiddling your thumbs, looking at me, looking at you. We're
Right.
going to deal with something.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think about race, gender, and age of counselor?
so the first time I ever had a male therapist was the beginning of this year. I felt I got a lot more accountability out of that male therapist. He was young. Most of the therapists I've had are either older or younger. They've never been kind of the similar age that I am. Most of them have been white. I've had 2 Black female therapists. They were definitely people that held me accountable. I just feel like it's who you're comfortable with and then what skills do they have or what specialty training do they have to help you with what you're dealing with. So if it's a trauma, if it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, something like that, maybe you need to find somebody that has some extra training in dealing with, well, this person suffered a sexual trauma or came from domestic violence or
Yeah.
you have ADHD or have social anxiety. And so do they have any special training on anxiety? But I just feel like you got to find somebody that works and for you and that you're comfortable with talking to. And then for me, I always look for somebody that's going to hold me accountable. If you're going to be that soft, well, how are you feeling today? Yeah, because I'm just gonna lie and tell you what you want to hear, and I'm not gonna do the work. I need that person to be
Yeah.
like, Tiffany, we're not doing this. You were supposed to do the homework, you didn't do it, so we're doing it in session, and I'm gonna send you a reminder this week to make sure you do it.
Yeah.
So
So like when I looked for all the well, we've had family counselors too, but when I looked for all the kids, right, I would read their bios a lot and see like, did they work with children, adolescents? Did they work with ADHD? Did they work with, any kind of trauma? Did they work with, youth a lot, or did they focus mostly on, and then what kind of modalities they use?
yeah,
Because if it's just talk therapy, it's not going to work for half of my kids. The other kids, yes, they'll talk. The other half, absolutely not. Like, and we've had counselors who are really older, and I think they were probably the worst because their mindset was just put them somewhere, put them
yeah,
away, send them away, or the worst diagnoses they could say.
hmm,
They were saying, like what? So I do think you have to be cognizant. Like, just because they're a therapist or a counselor, they may not be the right fit, and they may not be telling you the right thing. And I know it's not the same thing, but like my mom, she's having this like shoulder issue and whatever. She goes to this place and they tell her she needs a shoulder replacement. The ball and joint are destroyed, blah, blah, blah. Mom, you need to get a second opinion. She's like, yeah, I'll go to Chicago and get a second opinion. So she goes and gets a second opinion from, maybe maybe more prestigious or maybe whatever place. Guy is like, your ball and joint are fine. What are you talking about? Like, you have a spur or burr, whatever you call it,
yeah,
and you've got some arthritis
yeah,
or bursitis, and we'll clean that up. But you definitely do not need a shoulder replacement. But typically, my mother will believe any doctor because he's a doctor. He knows. So she was ready to go get a shoulder replacement. So I feel like it's the same thing with
yeah,
like therapy. Just because they're there, they may not like this one counselor we have. I tell you, she's life changing for one of our children. She is open to different modalities. Like she does EMDR. And a lot of other people said they wouldn't do that with under 21. She does a lot of stuff. She is very open to share with us and us with her. She does play stuff. She does, it's not, we're just going to sit and talk,
yeah,
which makes a huge difference. And she's very open minded about what could be going on. Not, oh, it's this, send them away or whatever, So I think, but like Nick, I'll use Nick for an example. He freaking hates. Every time I say we need to try a different counselor, he's like, oh, I'm not going through this crap again. I don't want to tell our whole life story again. And I don't want to go through all this again. And which I don't blame him. It's a lot. The
it's a
paperwork,
lot, yep.
they want your history. Then you got to come in and talk about your history. And then you do 3 or 4 sessions with them and you realize it's not the person. But I mean, it took us multiple, and now Madison has had hers for 4 years. Ava's had hers for almost 2. Kingston's had this new one for 6 months, and London's going on 3 months. So, I mean, it does take a lot of rotation, but I'm just hoping. And like for me as a parent, our goal for counseling is to break the walls between like Madison had anxiety. I can't relate to that. So I need somebody who can.
Yep.
Our younger kids just don't seem to like us for some reason. So trying to break the wall of what is going on and why, so we want to move forward. We want everybody to be happy and successful, and whatever we got to do to process that, let's do that.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like the counselors tell me feedback, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. Like,
What do you mean?
like, let's say, for example, one of our kids says that you're too much
Okay.
and you're fake and you're not really that nice and you're too much. Everything you do is they don't want to talk to you. There's just everything about you is wrong.
Okay.
Right? So you go to the counselor and you're like, okay, how do we break this wall or get through, just leave him alone. Don't talk to him. And I'm like, what? Like, just give him space to come to you. Well, we should be able in our house to sit down at dinner and go, how was your day? And it not be fucking dramatic. You know what I mean? Like, it should be like, oh, it was good. How was yours? Good. We're eating dinner. It should be regular talk. Well, that's considered small talk, and that's fake and not genuine. And I'm like, every person I conversate with starts with small talk. How was your day? Good. How's counseling? Good. Oh, what happened? And then you get into deeper conversations. I'm not just walking up to somebody and being like, so you got cramps today? Like, I'm not like, I start with small talk and it leads. So this one child is just against us no matter what we do. So I can't even, but when the counselor originally is like, don't talk to him. Like, That's reinforcing, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you on that. But
And we
I
don't like
do
force our kids to sit down and talk about their feelings. So let me just back
yeah,
up.
yeah.
That's why I tried to explain to her. We're not sitting down saying, tell me about your feelings. And she's basically saying, well, I think that's more of what they want. They don't want a small talk. It's fake. It's not fucking fake. It's having a conversation. All of our kids, how was your day? Anything happened today that you want to share? What was your favorite part? Oh, at work today, I fell down the stairs. Like, just talk.
I will say that, okay, yeah, when my kids were younger, like you said, there was situations I was like, I have no clue how to deal with this. I've never heard of it being a thing with kids. So let me take this young person to the therapist so that they can get it out and
Yeah.
figure out what do I need to do as a parent and how can I help them because I don't understand it. But I do feel like in my heart of heart, I felt like it would bring us together closer, but it never did.
Right.
It just helped them, I hope, in the moment, figure out ways to express themselves, deal with their emotions, be able to say to someone, okay, I don't like that. You're hurting my feelings or whatever. But I don't feel like it brought us closer, even though we did go as a family. And that to me, it's a little bit sad, but
But I think that
I don't
comes back
know.
to like one of our episodes when we talked about like the kids have to make a choice too.
Yeah.
Are you just going to choose to be miserable and be angry and mad? Like, like for one of ours, it perpetuates now with their significant other. And it's like, they think you're fake too. And I'm like, what? How? Because we invite you to dinner and go out into a movie or like, what is fake? Like, I feel we're pretty transparent
Yeah.
people. And I'm like, I don't get it. And then it's like, and this is where I struggle. At what point do you say, cool, you don't like us. We're fake. We're too much. You don't want to talk to us. You can't be in the room with us. Then cool. We should only be providing you with a home, food, and supplies, not the 7 million other things you're getting as a privileged child.
I think I would try that. If this is
And I'm not saying we have to have a relationship to get things.
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying you should get things based on like bribing, but I'm also saying, cool, if I hated you,
Mhm.
if I didn't like you, I didn't want to
Not
be
be
around
around you.
you, I am no longer going to ask you for things. Hey, can you
No.
help me with this? Can you
No.
help? I'm going to distance myself
Yeah.
from you. I'm not going to use you. So like, at what point do you teach your children that, okay, cool, you're choosing your boundaries. That includes my boundaries then of me not doing this, 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 and this, and this, and this for you.
I think that would have to be a session with the therapist. But based on that therapist's response, it probably will go bad in that situation as well.
Well,
But I think
one
it would
time her
need to be
response was, then stop paying for some of the stuff.
okay. Then I think since that is a thing, okay, the next time she has a conversation with me as the parent, I'm going to say, since he feels this way, then this is how I feel. And this is what I'm going to start doing. And we need to be able to communicate that to him so he understands it in the next session.
And I think sometimes too, like for us, there's one of our kids that I feel like likes to have that image that life is bad. You know what I mean? And like they don't want their friends to see it's happy, healthy, and good. So they have to perpetuate everything to make it seem that way. And then I'm like, well, how do other people not see that when we have all these kids and they're all happy and they're all good and they're all doing good stuff and one person's miserable? But they like to keep a wall up like, no, I don't want them to come over here. Why? Because they're going to see we're normal and that everything's cool and fine and we're not awful people. Like, it's like an image. And I feel like sometimes the counselors and therapists, they need to know what's going on in the house because why are you putting out, why do you want it to seem it's like so bad?
Because if I let it be good, especially if I've had a bad experience or trauma, then am I setting myself up to be disappointed? Because I'm sure at some point in their experience, they did have hope. They did feel like, okay, things are going to get better. They did feel like, okay, this bad thing happened today. If I do this, this, and this, then it won't happen again. And they were disappointed. And so they are comfortable in the coping skill of everything is shitty. And so now I don't have to get my
Yeah.
hopes up for anything good to happen and then to be let down later. How do you get past that? Ask me about 5 years. Maybe I had an answer.
Yeah, because I think if the person chooses to live like that, unless they really take their counseling serious and they want to change it, I really think it just stays that
It
way.
just stays that way. And
Like,
it's safe.
well,
It's
and there's
safe,
during my
unfortunately.
childhood, I think I had things that I could be angry about, right? And I could probably have held on to. But I look at that and then look at what I have by having a relationship. And I feel like I chose the better of the two
Yeah.
instead of being angry and being whatever. I mean, I went through stuff, but, and acted out when I was a teenager, got in trouble, all that stuff. But as an adult, I'd rather, okay, move on from that and grow my relationship with my parents and siblings to the way that it's healthy and good versus why being miserable, what's that serving me? Now, I didn't have trauma like you had trauma, but I'm
So
just
I
saying,
guess I can look at it like, okay, I have a sibling that we both grew up in the same house. I chose one path, she chose a different path. I choose to keep my distance from her because I don't want to go into her life being helpful, hopeful. Okay, she's going to get it together because I've done that before. And then for her to turn around and treat me like shit, like I never did
right.
anything to help her.
The interesting thing
So,
when you said you went one way and went another way. So the counselor that we were talking to this week explained that children in the same house during trauma, right? So if
mhm,
there's 5 kids in the same house, all witnessing the same thing,
mhm.
all of their versions are different.
Oh, yes.
And one child is thinking, like, okay, let's say you and your sister, you got it easy,
Mhm.
and they got it harder. So they're mad at you, they're angry at you, they think whatever, and they take the victim role.
Mm.
And they don't want to change anything because when they were miserable, they got more attention for that, they got whatever. So even though you have multiple children in the same house, same experiences, that's why a lot of times siblings don't get along through trauma. She said they will have each other's backs when needed,
Yeah.
After that, they don't get along.
Yeah.
Because there's this deep resentfulness, or you had it better, I had it worse, or you got away with more than I did. There's all this like anger towards each other, and that usually a lot of kids through trauma will not be close.
Nope. We are not close. I can't even tell you the last time I talked to her on the phone, honestly. I think the last time I saw her was 2022. Yep. And when I saw her condition, saw where she lived, saw everything, I was like, you could have had such a great life if you had have just stayed and faced the music. We brought her here to North Carolina, set her up, felt like this was a good place for her to be. She was away from the crazy of the inner city ghetto hot mess that we grew up in, and she went right back to that.
But see, a
So
lot of people, which you know this from counseling, but a lot of people like to create that chaos or that dysfunction, as explained to me by the counselor, that because that's what they were used to.
yeah.
So it's their comfort. They know that. They don't know coming to a nice place and behaving nicely and being respectful, and like that's not their comfort. Their comfort is yelling and chaos and hiding or doing dumb crap, and that's what they knew. So that's just all they stick with, and then they play the victim mentality of,
But
this is
I
all I
also think
know.
about like, okay, so for me, I definitely didn't want my kids to be around that, to be raised up in it, to even think that was the life that they should have. But I also see, yeah, I sheltered them from the way I grew up and all the crazy. But some of them to me feel like they're drawn to that environment, but you don't even know that environment. Why are you drawn to it? So that's something I don't get
Okay, so let
either.
me ask you this. You said they're drawn to that environment.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a cultural thing? Just because?
I think it's they thought it was cool. Being from the ghetto is cool if you're black.
Right. So right. So
So
cultural
I
thing, like they
guess,
think,
I guess, but I think that's the stupidest thing ever because why?
yeah,
You didn't have that as a kid. You were around all kind of mixed races. Sure, they in the military. We got
right,
military
yeah.
brats that their parents,
You
came
move around and
from some
everybody is
places
different.
and they
Yeah.
brought with that culture with them. But like for me, I just thought, okay, if I give them this different life, they're not gonna be bothered with I'm gonna
Just
live
get
in the
by. Yeah.
slums or I'm just gonna get by or I'm gonna be this or that. I thought all of them would go to college and be successful. But yeah, I think part of it I will say is cultural because sure, I mean, your culture is gonna listen to certain genres of music. And so because I want to be cool with my little friends over here and that's what they listen to, okay, I'm gonna listen to that as well. But I think yeah.
Well, and that's funny you say that too, because one of the counselors told us, I've been talking to the counselors a lot the last couple weeks, said that, the highest, okay, from 0 to 3 is when you really develop your attachment styles, like your attachment, your bonding, whatever.
Okay.
And then 3 to 5 is kind of where your principles and morals get kind of engraved.
Develop. Okay.
Yeah. And then she said, after that, the next biggest influential period is when they're around their friends and their other friends, parents, coworkers.
Yeah.
Your influence almost goes away. And when they're in school, if they're around the group of people they want to fit in with or be friends with, they're going to do anything to do that. If they go hang out at their house and their parents are smoking weed and letting the kids do it, they're going to do like their influences come so much from outside the house. So the other day it was kind of cool. Coach pulled us aside and told us we had some issues and that he was doing this, this, and this. And I was like, thank you. Like these are the things we say and do, but it falls on deaf ears. And a lot of, teachers over the years have wanted to tell us stuff, but they don't enforce it. Like at school, they'll say, this should be done, blah, blah, blah. Well, what did you do? Well, we didn't give them we thought you could deal with it. No, obviously it's not working. Like you need to give consequences too. So I told this person, like, thank you. We're fine with it. You do what you need to do to reinforce the rules that you're doing because hearing it from us, like I think kids start to ignore their parents.
Yep.
It's that stage where they rebel against
because
you.
you don't know anything.
Right.
You've never been in my shoes. You're just an old grumpy adult that's
so if they have a bad friend and that friend says, come on, let's break the rule. Let's do that. They're going to fall into that.
To the end. Therapy is challenging. Think if you venture to go into it, you need to find the right therapist that fits you, and you need to be in a position or open to be serious about healing.
Well, and it's not fast.
No, it's not fast.
You might be 6 months before you feel like you've gotten really something good out of it. So like our rule of thumb has been like, honestly, I just contradicted myself, but after 3 or 4 months, if we don't feel we're getting communicate or seen or anything, we kind of say, we have a meeting with them and we reevaluate and say, I think we're in a good place with most of them right now. There's one I'm not sure. Most of them, I think we're in a good place and can see growth. But you're right. If you're not willing to participate, but it's not overnight either.
No.
You got to give it some time and do the work. If you're just going there and venting, going home and not applying anything, it's the same thing. It's just like a sport. If you go home and never practice, you're not going to get better in the game.
No, you're not. But I think a lot of therapists that I've gone to do ask me periodically during our time, is there anything you want to work on, or is there anything that I'm doing that's not working for you? And I think that's something you should have in the first 1 or 2 sessions. What has worked for you in the past? What brought you to me? What did your last therapist do that you really liked? What did they do that you didn't really like?
I will say I avoid therapists that are in business less than 3 years.
Why?
I just won't do it.
Well, just like me going to a therapist that's younger than me. I didn't even know she was married.
I'm fine with younger, just not 3 years or less. I feel like you don't have enough experience. Like, I know it sounds bad, but through my experiences, the ones that we've had that are the worst were the brand new ones. I think they're just trying to apply application in the book and not really, they don't have enough experience to recognize. Yeah, like some of the counselors we worked with have worked in group homes and detention centers. So they've gotten that experience where one girl was like it was literally like a textbook session. I'm like, and then the old people, they have great experience, but I can tell within the first 2 sessions if it's like, oh no, they just this. It's just like
they're just matter of fact. They're not open.
Or they're just diagnosing with crazy shit or saying send them away. Like that's not an option for healing. So
I will say you probably shouldn't listen to the ones that's send them away.
Yeah, we had one every time we went in there. She would say, I really think the best option, send group home.
Because I had
that's
one.
That's not going to help.
Yeah, I had one go to a group home. I mean, there was really no way I could stop it from happening because I wasn't even here in the U.S. But that's something I think if she ever decides to go to therapy, that will definitely come up as to I was abandoned and you threw me away because this therapist said I was too bad and I couldn't stay in the home.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they should have that
today.
I don't think they should have that power unless you're harming yourself or others.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was a part of the reason, but still, I wish there was some other, maybe an intense day camp or something we would have tried before, like seriously putting her in the group.
But here's my thing, like, and maybe I don't have enough knowledge, so forgive me, but in my head, I've never understood separating people. Like, okay, we had a high school where I was from. When you get in trouble, you go to this school where all the people who go in trouble go to. How's that
just made a whole school full of badass kids that was doing crazy shit every day.
You're not getting anybody to positively, I don't understand. That's like group homes. How is that helping? We know the things that go on in group homes. We know the anger. We know the problems. We know lots of things. How is that going to help somebody? Now, I can see adults, like a day center, you send them to do like classes and therapy and da 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 da. And I understand the concept of why people go to a group home. But I also feel like, how is that helping?
Supposedly going to the group home, this one was Christian. So, of course, you had those Christian values there. You had this positive family that was going to enforce all of the rules. We're teaching them responsibility. There's no distractions or conflict from the family members and the siblings and all of that. It was therapeutic. So, she did get to ride horses and stuff like that. But I do feel like because she felt she
You
was
were
snatched and
yeah,
thrown away, that it just added fuel to the
the
big
rebellion.
fire
Yeah.
already happening, and it destroyed 3 relationships. It destroyed the relationship with me and her father, and then it destroyed the relationship with her godparents until she could figure out, okay, I can be in a relationship with you guys, but we dare not talk about this subject, because if we do, all hell breaks loose because there's so much resentment and abandonment. And I think some of those characteristics that I exhibit as, okay, I felt abandoned as a child, so let me put this wall up. You can only get so far to know Tiffany, to be close to Tiffany. She does those same things now. And she'll run like the wind. She'll come back. She'll run like the wind if there's a trigger that makes her feel like, oh, you're about to abandon me.
Yeah.
So no, I don't agree with the group homes. Don't send your kids to
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
A military school, none of that. You just got to figure it out. It might be
Yeah.
ugly, nasty,
And the
terrible.
only thing I always hope for is that when they're all adults, they'll be happy and whatever and be successful,
Or they'll still be in therapy.
or they'll still,
And that's okay.
I
There's
mean,
nothing
Madison has
wrong
no
with
intention of ever stopping.
and I don't blame
She
her.
goes once a month and she has no intention of ever stopping. I don't think Ava will either. The boys probably, as soon as they don't have to go, they won't go.
But one
But
thing I do feel like therapy does, it while you're there venting, if you're open, it can give you different perspectives. For instance, I might look at Megan said this thing to me and I took it this way. That's my perspective. But in therapy, when I'm expressing, Megan said this to me and I'm pissed off and she shouldn't have said that. Maybe that therapist can say, well, hey, did you consider this? Did you consider she was trying to be helpful, or she didn't
she
mean it
didn't
that
take it.
way?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just took it this way because you still have these,
Resentment or this feelings or this.
or
Yeah.
this is how you cope with people coming
Yep.
at you and you felt upset. So they can help you problem solve and also get different perspectives and maybe encourage you to sometime get out of your fear, get out of your own way and chase your dreams. And I just feel like therapy is what has definitely saved me from myself a lot of times. And it's also a place that I could just vent, that I'm not, telling Megan too much, dumping on her. So now she's carrying my burdens and I'm not dumping it on my husband and yelling and screaming at him. There's a neutral third party. I can dump it on them. They're not going to go tell all my friends or tell my business, and they're going to give me some practical advice.
Yeah. Cause like yesterday when I was at the counselor and I'm just like, bleh. She pieces it together. Like, okay, think about this and process it this and did you this and, like, it's more than your friend, like, I'm sorry. And like, is there anything I can do where they're like, okay, look at it this way or do. So I think everybody could benefit.
Yeah.
Like I hear people tell me stuff sometimes. I'm like, you really should go to therapy. Cause I'm like, it would be so beneficial. Like,
Yes.
but again, then people are like, I'm never doing that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I've had some very interesting ones.
I
can
do
only
think
one that
in
was terrible.
person is better than virtual. I feel I'm held more accountable in person.
I think in person, that therapist can tell whether you're lying.
Your
They're
body
looking at your
language.
body language and get more insight to help you by looking in your face and your eyes. It's versus on the screen. I'm only gonna show this much because I don't want you seeing me like getting anxious and fidgeting my fingers and like, oh my God, this is terrible. When is this again? Can I look at the clock now? When is it over? So I do agree in person is better. But
Yeah.
I do both.
Yeah.
I do both. All right, guys. So what are your thoughts about therapy? And do you have anyone going off to college? And what are you feeling right now? Maybe you should go to therapy for that.
Especially if you're an empty nester.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus. Yes, you need to go to therapy because you need to find a new hobby because
Yeah.
you're not taking care of a baby no more.
Yep.
It's a whole adult, and you got to let them live their lives and make all the fabulous mistakes they're going to make in the world or at college. Give us your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and give us a 5-star rating if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify. And don't forget, we're on YouTube. Till next time. Bye, guys.